In chapter 16, Ezekiel delves into the ancient roots of Jerusalem, tracing its origins back to the Canaanite era. He then recounts the history of Israel, starting with God's selection of a despised and forsaken newborn. The narrative progresses through the multiplication of Israelites in Egypt, the establishment of the marriage covenant at Mount Sinai, and the nation's evolution into a radiant woman under the reign of kings, gaining widespread renown during Solomon's rule.
Unfortunately, despite the blessings bestowed upon Israel by the Lord, the nation strayed and began to honor idols.
Fast forward to chapter 17, where Ezekiel turns his attention to the current state of affairs in Jerusalem. Ezekiel uses a riddle of two eagles to question the wisdom of an alliance with Egypt in rebellion against Babylon.
A great eagle with great wings, long pinions and a full plumage of many colors came to Lebanon, and took away the top of the cedar. He plucked off the topmost of its young twigs and brought it to a land of merchants. He set it in a city of traders. He also took some of the seed of the land and planted it in fertile soil. He placed it beside abundant waters. He set it like a willow. Then it sprouted and became a low-spreading vine, with its branches turned toward him. But its roots remained under it. So it became a vine and yielded shoots and sent out branches. But there was another great eagle, with great wings and much plumage. And behold, this vine bent its roots toward him, and sent out its branches toward him, from the beds where it was planted, that he might water it. It was planted in good soil, beside abundant waters, that it might yield branches and bear fruit and become a splendid vine. Will he not pull up its roots and cut off its fruit, so that it withers, so that all its sprouting leaves wither?
Say now to the rebellious house, do you not know what these things mean? Say, behold, the king of Babylon came to Jerusalem, took its king and princes and brought them to him in Babylon. He took one of the royal family and made a covenant with him, putting him under oath. He also took away the mighty of the land, that the kingdom might be in subjection, not exalting itself, but keeping his covenant, that it might continue.
From history, we learn that King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon swooped down on Jerusalem in 597 BC. He deposed King Jehoiakim and took him and his family and staff to Babylon.
He then placed Zedekiah, another son of Josiah, as a vassal king of Judah.
But he rebelled against him by sending his envoys to Egypt, that they might give him horses and many troops. Will he succeed? Will he who does such things escape? Can he indeed break the covenant and escape?
The Pharaoh of Egypt is depicted as a majestic eagle, boasting impressive wings and abundant plumage. However, this portrayal pales in comparison to the portrayal of the king of Babylon, another formidable eagle, adorned with long pinions and a vibrant plumage of many colors.
This stark contrast serves as a clear indication that Zedekiah's reliance on a less powerful ally was unwise.
Zedekiah was already rooted in fertile soil, surrounded by abundant waters. There was no compelling reason for him to rebel against Babylon. In fact, the Lord had explicitly conveyed through the prophet Jeremiah that Zedekiah should submit to Babylon, Jeremiah 27 verses 12 to 13.
Despite divine guidance, Zedekiah seemed to lack trust in God's sufficiency. Instead, he chose to assert control over the situation by seeking an alliance with Egypt.
Whose covenant did Zedekiah violate? According to Ezekiel 17 verse 16, Zedekiah broke his covenant with Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. However, In Ezekiel 17 verse 19, it is revealed that Zedekiah also violated his covenant with the Lord God. How does this apparent contradiction arise?
2 Chronicles 36 verse 13 sheds light on the matter, explaining that Nebuchadnezzar compelled Zedekiah to swear an oath in God's name during the covenant-making process. Consequently, in breaking his covenant with Nebuchadnezzar, Zedekiah not only betrayed the Babylonian king, but also transgressed the oath he had made before God.
Who executed judgment on Zedekiah? Ezekiel 17 verses 17 to 18 attributes the siege of Jerusalem to Babylon when Zedekiah breached the covenant. However, Ezekiel 17 verse 20 reveals that it was God's snare that captured Zedekiah. This conveys the understanding that when Zedekiah pledged allegiance to God, it signified God as the ultimate enforcer of the covenant. In the event of Zedekiah's failure to uphold the covenant, God would ensure the imposition of penalties. Therefore, while Babylon was the visible instrument in executing judgment, God worked behind the scenes, utilizing Babylon as a means to discipline Zedekiah for his covenant violations.
The immediate future of Jerusalem looks bleak. Is there any hope left for the people of God?
Yes, certainly there is.
The Lord employs the same vivid imagery to convey a message of hope and glory to the people of Israel. In this parable, the eagle is no longer symbolizing Nebuchadnezzar, but represents Yahweh. The Lord had pledged to take a tender branch from the top of a tall cedar and plant it in the land of Israel. This promised branch would flourish, growing into a magnificent tree, where birds of every kind would find shelter.
This symbolic branch that transforms into a majestic cedar finds its fulfillment in the Messiah, Jesus Christ.
He, who originates from the lineage of David, is destined to establish his glorious kingdom on earth.
The prophecy foretells a time when nations, both Jew and Gentile, will converge upon this divine kingdom, seeking refuge and divine presence.
The imagery painted in the parable signifies not just renewal for Israel, but the universal impact of the Messiah's reign, drawing people from all nations into the embrace of his glorious kingdom.
Do you recall the Davidic covenant? God assured David that his kingdom would be established forever, and there would always be a descendant of his, occupying the throne of the house of Israel. When prophesying the birth of Jesus to Mary, the angel declared that God would bestow the throne of David upon Jesus, and he would reign over the house of Israel for all time.
The divine promise made by God is resolute. What he has spoken, he will undoubtedly fulfill. The Jews of that time appeared confident in their understanding of what God would or would not do, grounded in their unique relationship with him.
Often described as Jehovah's special vine, Israel was planted by God in the promised land with the expectation that it would never be uprooted.
However, Israel failed to fulfill its purpose, not bearing fruits and hence is useless. The nation entered into a covenant with Jehovah at Mount Sinai, akin to a divine marriage, with the assurance that God would never sever this union.
However, Israel strayed from the covenant.
She was unfaithful, worshipping other gods.
The kings of Judah were descendants of David. Thus the kingdom was perceived as infallible.
However, the historical narrative reveals disobedience and a lack of trust in God among many of these Davidic kings.
Indeed, Israel's special relationship with God is an undeniable truth. Yet the Jews faltered in their response. Consequently, the inevitability of judgment looms over them. However, within God's promises lies the assurance of a future Davidic king, and the advent of a glorious kingdom yet to unfold. These are questions for discussion if you are watching these videos in a small group.